there's different levels of creativity. This is something that I've kind of read about and researched in my own work on creativity. You can be creative in terms of learning different types of songs, learning to play different types of things. People who are the most creative can actually write their own music, their own lyrics, their own music itself, and also have the aptitude to play it. Now that's kind of the highest level, where you're able to create new music and write new music as well as be able to play it.
My name is Grace Kim. I am sophomore year. I major in music performance and I play the violin. I go to Western Kentucky University. I'm from South Korea. I started to learn the violin when I was 12 years old. I learned the piano when I was 7 years old. My brothers influenced me to play the piano, and then I saw that I learned piano first and then I learned violin later. I think I am just really honest when I play the violin. Like, sometimes when I perform on the stage, whatever emotion that I'm feeling, it really shows on the music. As a student who plays the violin, I think creativity is phrasing. As a violin player, I think that I have to know how to create different color or moods that what composer wants. That's what creative means to me.
Most of the creativity is felt to be interplay between the frontal lobes and the temporal lobes, and it's mostly on the dominant side. Most of the creativity that's involved with playing music or doing artistic work or any of that kind of stuff seems to be coming from the frontal lobes, and the temporal lobes are kind of modifying it and inhibiting it and fine-tuning it, and so you've got kind of this ongoing tension between frontal lobe function and temporal lobe function. When the temporal lobes are not quite working as well as usual, you actually have an increase in creative drive because it's disinhibiting the frontal lobes and allowing the frontal lobes to be a little bit more active. When the frontal lobes are working perfectly and the temporal lobes are a little bit less active and less inhibitory, that kind of gives you your best chance for high level of creative drive. When your frontal lobes are not working well because you're depressed, you're sad, you've got a tumor, you've had a big stroke, anything that can kind of cause a really severe reduction of frontal lobe activity will give you creative block, and you won't be able to be as creative as you would like to be or as you used to be. And all those things are also dependent on the amount of dopamine activity. You actually get increased creativity when you have increased dopamine activity in the frontal lobes and the temporal lobes. There's a whole lot of things going on that kind of mediate your ability to be creative, but the main one is that you have to have a lot of really good, high-quality frontal lobe function. And that's not something you can study in an animal. You can't study that in a test tube. It's a very, very high-level kind of esoteric thing to study where you don't have really good models to be able to study. You've got to study it in people, and typically damaged people, to try to get a handle on what parts of the brain are helping to do what, and so it's been very difficult to figure out how to go about studying something this nebulous. It's also a very difficult thing to define, but I think being creative in psychology may be different than being creative in medicine or different than being creative in music. It's all dependent on the field you're in, and it's all relative to the field you're in. But again, with any given field, creativity is the ability to create new concepts or new ideas outside of the norm of kind of what's been going on beforehand.